years, legends of indigenous peoples in the northern United States and southern Canada have spoken of a terrifying creature known as the Wendigo. This mysterious and malevolent being is said to haunt the snowy wilderness, preying on unsuspecting travelers and feasting on human flesh. I warn you, what you'll find here is likely not what you expect. Modern portrayals of the Wendigo legend have warped public.
He's not your responsibility.
He has no one. He is my responsibility.
He'll come for me. He needs me. He's here.
Welcome to the Lair of the Unknown, my friends. I am your host, the Dark Lord. And when I'm not being eaten alive by Fat Bastard, I'm in my lair talking about, well, fascinating stuff. Today, I begin my discussion surrounding the legend of the Wendigo. There are many questions surrounding the entity known as the Wendigo, such as, what in God's name is it? Where does the name Wendigo even originate from? What does it even look like? And how many people even know about it due to it being such an elusive creature? First of all, what is the Wendigo and what does it look like? The Wendigo is a malevolent spirit spoken about by the Algonquin-speaking Indian folklore, known as the Ojibwe, the Saulteaux, the Cree, the Naskapi, and the Innu. According to legend, when facing severe cabin fever during a long and freezing winter, a person's ravenous hunger causes him or her to become a human cannibal, which means that they turn to eating human flesh and internal organs to survive. And after they turn to cannibalism, they would turn into an evil entity known as the Wendigo that can become many different forms. However, the more human flesh they eat, the weaker and hungrier they become, to the point which leads them to attack and infect more victims in the wild. Now, what does the supposed Wendigo creature even look like? Well, it goes like this. It can be seen as many different forms, going from human-like to demon-like, but is most commonly described as being Bigfoot-like to stag-like or deer-like in most pictures. The most striking feature of the Wendigo's appearance is its antlers, or horns, which is most commonly seen having on its head. No matter how many people describe the Wendigo in its many forms, the end result is always terrifying and or horrific. The Wendigo is also described by natives as being absolutely massive, going from 9 to 10 feet tall and looking like an emaciated deer-like monster. Its emaciation is due to what it actually represents: starvation, which leads to it feeding on its own body, but the more it does this, the more horrific it becomes. Now, where in God's name did the name Wendigo originate? Believe it or not, there are many ways it's spelled and pronounced, such as Wendigo, Wingo, and Wendigo. The word Wendigo is an Algonquin word meaning evil spirit, but all the words and translations of this name all result in the same meaning: the evil spirit that devours mankind, also known as the flesh eater of the forests. In recent times, the Wendigo psychosis is the name used for the ones who suffer from having a strong desire to feast on human flesh. It has also been known to be a form of psychosis known as culture-bound syndrome. You see, the Wendigo is often associated with brutally cold conditions, unsatisfying greed, and most notably cannibalism. And while the Wendigo often eats humans, it grows substantially to the meal it just ate, so it would be unable to satisfy its diet, so it would rather continue feasting on new victims. The Wendigo, rather than just being a supernatural entity, is also known to be a species. So there is more than just one, and that is known to be a Wendigo, which is the plural word for Wendigo. Here's another question that I, the Dark Lord, especially have. How many people are even aware of the legendary Wendigo? Unlike Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, the Wendigo is not exactly well known to society. Most people are not familiar with the Wendigo, though it is well known enough to be made into a 2021 Hollywood film called Antlers, but I will discuss that movie later. I, the Dark Lord, found out about the existence of the Wendigo from the TV show Lost Tapes, Season 3, Episode 7. Let's take a quick look at that episode for a minute.
There's our big, strong fisherman. Gonna catch some fish for us?
Fine.
There are no fish in there.
They're in here. They were waiting for me. You see?
We're being picky. We don't want that one or that.
Here, you can have this.
Where'd you get that?
I saved it. I didn't eat it. No, I don't want that. It's yours. No,
Eat
April, I'm serious. You can have it. If you're not feeling good, I want you to have it. Okay?
Okay, where are the fish? Don't see any.
You are not seriously going to cook
not
that
funny.
We
soup?
don't have any choice.
Dude, we're lost, but we're not animals. Go get it out of here. Get it out.
Guys, it's been days and we don't have any food.
I'm not going to eat that.
No.
Turn that thing off.
Help! Someone help me! Help! Matthew!
When I found out about the existence of the Wendigo, I was both disgusted and fascinated by it at the same time. Now, there are two infamous cases where somebody became possessed by the Wendigo in the past. The first case emerged in the year 1879, known as the infamous case of Swift Runner. On December 20th, 1879, the natives of Alberta, Canada witnessed a shocking execution of a Cree Indian known as Swift Runner. What had caused him to be executed? It's quite an interesting case. Apparently, Runner had killed and ate his entire family, but he claimed that he had become possessed by the dark entity, the Wendigo. This is his story. Born in Kakisi Kuchin, Swift Runner was well known to his community and a husband and father to 6 children, over 6 foot tall, and made a living as a trapper and guide to the North Mountain Police. Toward the end of his life, he had turned into an alcoholic and began abusing whiskey, which made him into a raging drunk, which ended up getting him cast out of his tribe due to his violent nature. During the brutal winter of 1878, Swift Runner took his wife and 6 children, mother-in-law, and his own brother camping into the dark forests of Canada. Many months later, Runner returned from the forests and came into a Catholic mission. The priests were alarmed by his behavior and questioned him about his deteriorated state and the whereabouts of his family. Runner then confessed that his entire family was dead. Apparently, during the winter, Runner had not been able to find any food and was forced to watch them starve to death. However, Swift Runner appeared to be pretty healthy, so the priests were skeptical about his story. Other Cree members had made their hunting habits with more success. Also, Swift Runner was apparently waking up in the middle of the night, screaming, which was scaring the priests. Runner also tried to lead more children into the forest for no good reason. When that happened, the priests went to the police, believing there was something far more sinister going on. Runner was then arrested and forced to show the police to the campsite where Runner had brought his family. Either he did what he had been ordered to do, or he tried to mislead them in another direction. No one is sure, but eventually they made their way to the campsite, and what they saw was nothing but a scene of nightmares. Bones were scattered everywhere, blood was everywhere, and there was even a pot filled with human fat. After this occurrence, Swift Runner then defended himself by claiming he had been possessed by the malevolent spirit of the Wendigo. He was then sent to trial in 1879, but despite the claim he had been possessed by the Wendigo, it was not believed by the court, and he was executed by hanging on December 20th, 1879. The second case of Wendigo possession was in December of 1897, when it was reported in the St. Paul Globe issue in Minnesota claimed that an Indian woman living within the Barrens River Reserve in Manitoba was acting strangely. It was believed that she was suffering from typhoid fever. However, her husband believed she was becoming possessed by the Wendigo. He then broke her neck and murdered her. He was then arrested for murder. What happened afterwards is not clear, but we are sure that this incident was not nearly as infamous as the Swift Runner case. These incidents lead me to bring up the question, do all who face starvation during a cabin fever situation have the risk of being possessed by the Wendigo, or is it only certain victims? I am pretty much asking the same question that my viewers may also have. How is the Wendigo created? Is it born inside of a starving victim, or do you have to be in the presence of the Wendigo itself, or even be in the presence of someone already possessed by the Wendigo? I would say the most likely case of someone being possessed by the Wendigo is when you come into contact with it rather than being it born inside of you, but that's just my realistic point of view. But whether it be born or encountered, it is known to be spread worldwide. Of course, with all the observations of the Wendigo's gaunt and terrifying appearance, it is also known to have the rotting stench odor that surrounds it, exactly like the foul smell of roadkill. Many who claim that the Wendigo is just a myth believe that the stories and legends surrounding the Wendigo legend was just brought up to scare children to make sure they wouldn't go wandering into the woods alone or banded together during the harsh winters. It is known that we could also see the concept of the Wendigo as any person who becomes overpowered by greed and insatiable hunger to remain that way forever if not dealt with immediately. Another way to see the Wendigo is as a metaphor, a representation of complete violence and selfishness of one person or group of people who are willing to sacrifice others in order for their lives to be spared. You see, having an encounter with the Wendigo spirit is like encountering Fat Bastard from Austin Powers.
No happy. Look at me, I'm a big fat slob. I've got bigger titties than you do. I've got more chins than a Chinese phone book. I've not seen my willy in 2 years, which is long enough to declare it legally dead. I can't stop eating. I eat because I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy because I eat. It's a vicious cycle.
Now, in 1991, a certain man was arrested and charged with killing and cannibalizing 17 men over the course of 13 years. Was this a possible Wendigo victim? Can you even guess this man's name? The answer will be revealed in part 2 of this discussion, which of course will be continued. In the meantime, ciao, bitches!